Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, we're going to be looking at our old friend Muhammad Hijab, the professional professional something. He has a YouTube channel, and I spoke to him once. So that basically means me and him are best buddies at this point. So he did a video where he claims the Islamic Dilemma is no problem whatsoever. Don't worry about it. Just don't even look at it. It's fine. Muslims, don't look at it. Please don't look at the Islamic Dilemma. But lately, as you guys know, I've been reading the whole Quran again, surah by surah, chapter by chapter, to find all the verses that talk about the Islamic dilemma, put all this information together so that we can have some amazing output, whether that's a study guide or whatever it is, that we can then share and people can look at, and they can get to terms with the Islamic dilemma really quickly. And it's just one single place, whether you're a Christian, an atheist, a spiritual person, a generic monotheist, I don't know. Regardless of who you are, if you have an interest in the Islamic dilemma, you should be looking forward to when we put it all together and we make it public. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be reviewing this video from Muhammad Hijab, well-known professional wrestler, part-time stripper, full-time public entertainer. Hijab is maybe not the best debater, maybe not the smartest guy in the room, but he is very funny. And you have to give it, I appreciate a good joke. That's why I appreciate Muhammad Hijab. But Muhammad Hijab has made a video where he addresses the Islamic dilemma. Now, that has a special interest to me. As you guys know, I've been making content about the Islamic dilemma for quite a while now. So when I saw Muhammad Hijab's channel and I saw this latest video, I was intrigued and I couldn't help but jump on and just give it a watch. But fair warning, ladies and gentlemen, before we do start watching this video, keep in mind that this does contain heavy amounts of Muhammad Hijab, so you have been warned before we start. Before we go any further, let's watch the video.
Brothers and sisters, let me introduce you to Norway. You need to support them. If you donate to this cause, you will inshallah reap the rewards of thousands of Muslims coming back to Islam.
And it's a big advert. So for those of you who don't know, Muhammad Hijab is one of these people that basically doesn't make content. He just makes adverts that pretend to look like content. So you go in hoping to watch a video about something, but actually it's just a big advert. So we're just gonna skip a little bit. Let's skip that a little bit. No more adverts, Muhammad Hijab. He is, of course, advertising his "Give Me Money, I Build Mosque" campaign, which has been running from forever and will continue running till forever, with peaks during Ramadan and not much else. This mosque, I genuinely believe they started building like in the 11th century, and hopefully if Muhammad Hijab raises enough capital after the 630th time he's asked for it, he may actually build a mosque. Who knows? If you pray and you believe hard enough, the mosque will come. But not until you give him another 20 grand. Well, thereabouts.
Meaning what? That from the corrupted versions of the Bible, and we don't even believe in the Bible. And the Quran does not mention the word biblios or Bible, which means book in the Greek language. It's not something that's mentioned in the Quran.
This is why I don't think Muhammad Hijab is actually someone who bothers to learn things. I think he's someone who just picks stuff up and just regurgitates it without thinking. So he just said, the word biblios, the word Bible, is not in the Quran. Well done, Muhammad. 10 points. I feel like he attended an Oxford level undergrad course and basically forgot to attend, because this is like saying the word car or automobile is not in the Bible, therefore this is somehow significant and we should ponder upon why the word is not there. Or Muhammad Hijab, I don't know, just throwing this out here, but maybe you don't need the word Bible or biblios or any variant of that word to be in the Quran for the Quran to affirm the core texts that are found in the Bible. Like, maybe it'd be enough if, I don't know, say, I'm just throwing stuff out here, the Quran actually mentioned the Torah and the Injil by name multiple times. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd probably say somewhere in around 50 times, probably. I don't know, that would be a good thing to do, actually, as part of my study. How many times is the word Torah or Injil mentioned in the Quran? So, yeah, it kind of just references the book by name that are found in the Bible. So, nice try, Muhammad. That was pretty dumb and pretty pointless, in all honesty.
But say for the sake of argument, the corrupted version of Torah, the corrupted version of the Injil, which don't even exist because there was no one gospel of Jesus anywhere. There's only the Gospels according to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Oh dear. So he's basically done the whole word game, right? And this is the desperate point. And this is actually really low level stuff. This is actually just really weak stuff that comes from dour apologists. It's not even like the new stuff or the well-informed stuff. It's just lazy stuff that someone wrote in a script. Maybe Muhammad Hijab wrote the script. I have no idea what he was doing at his time at Oxford, but it certainly wasn't studying some of the basic tenets of the Quran. So the word Injil is a word which ultimately derives from Evangelion, which is a Greek word meaning gospel. Gospel, in this sense, can just be a compound word meaning good news. It could also be used in particular to reference one of the gospel accounts. Or it can be a term that can be applied to all four gospel accounts, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It could also, if you really wanted to go this far, be used as a term to basically mean anyone who gives an account of the good news that Jesus gave. Meaning it could encompass the Proto-Evangelion of James, which the Quran quotes from. It could encompass the infancy gospel of Thomas, for example, which the Quran also seems to quote from. I'm fine with that too. All I know is that the Quran makes explicit reference to the Injil as being something that is valid at the time of Muhammad. How do we know? Chapter 7 verses 157. Let's read it. They are the ones who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophet, whose description they find in their Torah and the Gospel. The Arabic word there is Injil. This would be pretty foolish of Muhammad to do in the 7th century to Christian and Jewish communities if he didn't believe that they actually had any kind of valid scripture to begin with. He obviously thinks they do. In fact, he thinks it so much so that the entire argument that is prevalent throughout the Quran is that the Jews and the Christians of the 7th century need to follow their scripture, do not conceal it, but take it seriously and follow it through, and that would lead them to believe that A, the Quran is actually a revelation from God because it confirms the stories that are found within the Injil and the Torah, and 2, that Muhammad is an actual prophet in the same line as the other prophets. This is one of the big arguments the Quran makes. Chapter 2 is full of these quotes, and if you want to check that out, I did an entire review of chapter 2, you can find it in this video up here. But for Muhammad to say that there is no such thing as a singular Injil, therefore when the Quran mentions the Injil, it must be referring to the original thing that was somehow different. Yeah, that would make no sense to the Christians at the time of Muhammad, who at this point in the 7th century already had a canonized Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So how would that have made sense to those Christians? Either those weren't representative Christians, in which, congratulations, the Quran is accidentally just affirmed a heretical form of Christianity, or it really is talking about the Matthew, Mark, Luke, John accounts that were colloquially known as the Injil, the Gospel at that time. Muhammad needs to go back to school. He needs to go back to Oxford. If we could raise money to send Muhammad back, that would be good. It would be a good gift of charity for Lent.
The second thing is, well, why doesn't he read the Quran in its entirety? It looks to me that he's following the footsteps of those apologists, Christian apologists, who have used this Quranic dilemma argument.
Oh, this is going to be good. He knows that many Christian apologists like Dr. David Wood, like myself, like Eric from Testify, we've been going hard on the Islamic dilemma with bountiful results, because just unraveling so much that we didn't know about the Quran and just how clearly the Quran affirms these previous scriptures without realizing that what the Quran is saying is in direct contradiction with what these previous scriptures are saying.
Which has flopped time and time again.
Oh, he says it's flopped. He says this argument has flopped time and time again. I bet he's going to go into a deep Oxford-style study as to how bad the Islamic dilemma is and why Christians should just abandon it, or non-Muslims of any kind should abandon it. Let's listen to what he has to say next.
Which has flopped time and time again.
I see you didn't get bored by the chant. I like that. But make sure you click the link below and donate to the Mega Masjid Project I mentioned.
It was just another ad. It was literally just another ad. He wraps his own advertisements for his own e-begging in an argument so he can sell you the argument when in reality it's just a disguised way of asking for money to build a mega masjid. Mega masjid rolls so well off the tongue. Forget mega churches, you got mega masjids now. Oh man. And what's with this thing? Is he trying to teach me to count?
I see you didn't get bored by the chant.
One mega masjid. Two mega masjid. Anyway, I'm going to skip the advertisement, go back to what he's saying.
Once again, I've been in the field for many years. There's not been one Muslim I have met that has so much as been affected by this misconception because they realize this weakness.
He's never met any Muslims who have been affected by the Islamic dilemma. Probably, Muhammad, because they wouldn't tell you about it because they're not Muslims anymore. Maybe you should ask people like us who actively deal with apologetics to Muslims, leading people out of Islam and into Christianity, and ask us whether or not we've had people tell us that the Islamic dilemma has been a problem for them. And yes, it is actually one of the more common ones. Whether at the corner or via email, I hear about people leaving Islam, and well, one of the more common things is the Islamic dilemma. And let's be honest, Muhammad, there's obviously a reason you're making this video. You had this guy on who introduced you, and he brought that up as a topic, and he probably did because he's being hounded by emails from Muslims asking you to address that issue. That's just an honest look at reality. People don't make responses to things for no reason.
But we'll continue and say, how do you explain, the question would go, how would you explain the fact that the Quran mentions, for example, in chapter number 3, verse number 187, for instance, and there are many verses like it, but I'm just choosing this one for now, because this verse is clear about Christians and Jews, the books of the Christians and the books of the Jews. فَنَبَذُوهُ وَرَاءَ ظُهُورِهِمْ, that they have thrown it behind their backs, and it's obviously a figure of speech. But if you look at what At-Tabari mentions about this verse, it means ضَيَّعُوهُ. ضَيَّعُوهُ, they have lost it. They have lost the books. They have not been able to preserve the books. That's what it means.
So we actually get some Islamic Quran verses that we can actually dive into and see if they tell us that the Torah or the Injil has been corrupted. What do you think the answer is going to be? Do you think these verses are going to say, hey, Christians, Jews, stop following the Injil and Torah, they've been corrupted. They say some pretty messed up stuff. You guys are committing shirk left, right, and center. You need to stop following that immediately and come to the Quran. Do you think the Quran ever says that? No, the Quran says the opposite of that. It tells the Christians and Jews to follow their scripture. Let's see what verse Muhammad has brought up. He brought up Surah Al-Imran. So Surah 3, Ayah 187, I think it was. Let's have a look. In this verse we read, "And mention, O Muhammad, when Allah took a covenant from those who were given the scripture," so that'd be Jews and Christians, "you must make it clear, i.e. explain it, to the people and not conceal it. But they threw it away behind their backs and exchanged it for a small price. And wretched is that which they purchased." Now hang on a second. Something doesn't smell right here. Allah in this verse is reminding the Jews and the Christians that he took a covenant with them, right, okay. And now he's reminding them that they have to teach people this covenant and not to conceal this covenant anything. They then threw it behind their backs and they exchanged the scripture for a small price. Doesn't that kind of sound like they had the scripture in order to conceal it? I mean, isn't that literally what you have to do to conceal something? Like if I tell you that I've got like £1 million under this desk and I'm concealing it, doesn't that mean I've got £1 million under the desk if I'm concealing it? Because if I don't, then what am I concealing? Well, nothing. So likewise in this verse, if Allah is blaming the Jews and the Christians for having concealed the scripture, by the way, traditional tafsir writers will say that this is the description and the prophethood of Muhammad that is supposedly being concealed in the Torah and the Injil by the Jews and the Christians. That kind of means that it's in their scripture and it's valid and it's uncorrupt. Now, of course, would have been a perfect opportunity for Muhammad to explain, or Allah to explain through Muhammad, that the scriptures are falsified, no longer abiding. The covenant is no longer abiding because it's been corrupted and they don't have it anymore to even follow it. But no. They still have the covenant. It's still in effect. They're still held to it and they're concealing the truth of it. All of that is only possible if they have the Torah and the Injil. Because how do you know what the covenant is? You know it from the prophets. And what did the prophets give you? They gave you scripture. They gave you the Injil. They gave you the Torah. Without those things, the Jews and the Christians in the 7th century wouldn't know what the covenant is. So this very verse that Muhammad has brought up has just showed him to be an idiot, basically. I mean, he doesn't even understand basic comprehension. Allah can't blame people for concealing something if there's nothing to conceal. There must be something to conceal because there must be an actual Torah and Injil from which you can derive this legitimate, true covenant from. In fact, if you just read a few verses ahead in Surah 3, Ayah 199, you get this absolute bombshell. Let's read. "And indeed among the people of the scripture," hey, that's me, "are those who believe in Allah and what was revealed to you and what was revealed to them, being humbly submissive to Allah." Did you catch that? Not only do some of these people of the scripture, the Jews and the Christians at the time of Muhammad, believe in what they're being told of this Quran from Muhammad, some of them do believe it, but they also believe in what was revealed to them. And then here's what's even more amazing. Read the next sentence. They do not exchange the verses of Allah for a small price. In other words, they don't conceal things for their own benefit, to twist things or to intentionally withhold things from others or to fabricate other scripture. But no, they actually are following the scripture properly at the time of Muhammad. Now, this would have been probably, if I had to pick a place in the Quran where Muhammad or Allah should have interjected and explained himself immediately, it would be this verse, because he's just said there are Jews and Christians at his time who have become Muslim actually. They've joined Muhammad, they accept Muhammad as a prophet and the Quran, but they still accept the truth of the Torah and the Injil. That would have been the time that Allah should have clarified, guys, your books are corrupted. They contain lots of bad stuff. You need to give that up now. Give that up and just follow the Quran. But he doesn't, because that would be shooting himself in the foot. The Torah and the Injil are the biggest arguments that Allah has to convince Christians and Jews to become Muslim. As weird as that is for Muslims today to think about, that is actually what the Quran does if you read it. Muhammad Hijab needs to verify that he did actually go to the University of Oxford and not Cambridge College, which I've heard some pretty negative reviews about online, and some people will even say it's a scam. I mean, heaven forbid. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar! Anyway, back to the advert. Sorry, back to his argument.
Clearly the Quran is telling this person and the Christian world that which Christian scholarship today has already confirmed. That which Bruce Metzger in his masterpiece, in his seminal work, his magnum opus, has confirmed in his book talking about the corruption of the Bible. Are you sick in the mind? Are you that mentally enslaved and intellectually subservient and intellectually molested and ideologically molested?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know when someone basically, if you want to know the code for I'm a Muslim and I've gone out of my bounds, like I don't actually know what I'm talking about now, I'm just saying stuff because I need to say something. This is the key words. First of all, but the Bible, and the second one is either Bart Ehrman, who used to be the go-to, but now Bruce Metzger is making a comeback because he just comes up all the time. But Bruce Metzger, okay, sorry Bart, you used to be the favourite, but I think you said some pretty negative things about Islam, so I guess Bruce Metzger is now the go-to guy to bring up when you're a Muslim apologist and you don't know what else to say to defend Islam. So yeah, he's pivoted. He's just jumped. You know, he's done the Mario jump from platform to platform. He's wanting to get away from talking about Islam because it's game over. The generic Dara script. Bruce Metzger wrote a book where he mentioned textual corruption in the biblical text. Therefore, Christians admit that the Bible is corrupted. This is just a basic wordplay. In essence, it's equivocation. They are hoping that the Muslim sense of the word corruption, that they're using it from their paradigm, gets to be applied to the Christian paradigm, which is actually more of a scholarly work from textual criticism. Corruption, in this sense, just means, well, there are manuscripts which we see things have been lost or included or changed. We can see that in the manuscript accounts. This could indeed be scribal errors, and we could see that as a form of corruption. If Muslims were being honest, they have the exact same thing in their own manuscripts. In fact, I had a discussion with Muhammad Hijab where he told me that 6 out of 7 of the Aruf might actually be gone, which seems to me like that might be a form of corruption. So yeah, Muhammad revealed the Quran in 7 different ways, but we've lost 6 of them. But the Quran is perfectly preserved. You figure that out. You figure how that works. You know what? I need to go to Oxford because obviously this guy has learned some big brain stuff at Oxford. And, you know, if only I went there, surely I'd learn how to answer difficult riddles like that. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end the video there. It's just lots of hot air and advertisements from Muhammad Hijab, not really any substance. If you're watching Muhammad Hijab, feel free to prove me wrong. But I know for a fact that you can't say much more than what you've already said. Which is a shame. It really is. You should read the Quran at some point. You'll figure out just how many times it confirms the Torah and the Injil in the 7th century. But wait, there is one more argument. One more argument so powerful and so unchallenged in the field of dawah that few know of its existence.
Wallahi, you're finished.
You need to have funded at least 7 mega mosques before you even know about the power that is Surah 5, Ayah 48. Dun dun dun. Terrifying Muhaymin argument that will destroy the Islamic dilemma. And it's not just a massive cope. But if you want to watch David Wood destroy Muhammad Hijab's chapter 5 verse 48 argument, you can click on the video up here. Go check it out. But thank you guys for watching this video. Really great to have you here. It's good to see other people like Muhammad Hijab, when he's not on Piers Morgan, actually address these kind of issues, because it gives us more opportunity to show exactly why this is just so obviously wrong, and it's just a lot of cope from the Dawah team. But God bless you all. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.